Now let's get into the big stuff. We have Mount Rushmore, our last topic. And it's a Mount Rushmore of most basically frustrating decisions or tendencies or results by players, individual players, or individual coaches, or the organization as it relates to the Raiders. So it seems very specific. Seems very, I'm not sure where I can go there. What you'll realize is that there's also a lot of things that you haven't channeled in your brain, and there will be channeled today. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start, okay? Put myself out there, and then it's going to go Micah, Dan. But as you know, we do snake draft. It's going to go me, Micah, Dan. Dan's going to go a second time, kick it back to Micah, to me, to where I get back-to-backs, and so on and so forth. So, boys, are we ready?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say this that doesn't seem like it would frustrate most, but it frustrates me is it's when Derek Carr claps for the snap, because I'm already clapping, but he's clapping because he didn't get out of the huddle as fast as he should have. And then now he's mad at someone else. And I'm upset that he's upset that I'm upset. And that's what frustrates me is I'm like, I know you should have done, whatever. There's a lot of accountability that spreads through. But I'm going to go number one. That's not really a 1v1, but I'm going to say it is because it's for me. Yeah. Micah, back to you.
It's a personal thing. It's a personal thing. I'm going to my 1v1 is gonna my 1v2 is gonna be kind of bouncing off of something that Dan has brought up in the past. Is when Gruden just gives backs their series and it's not switching him in and out. So you could have had maybe Jacobs go off on have a good series, and then all of a sudden Booker's in there and you're like, why the hell did you do that? Like,
I'm sorry, that's 1-1. That's so good. That's
it's like you should ride the hot hand, and as Dan said when he did some predictions or whatnot with Drake and everything, it's like mix it in there. You can mix up plays here and there, but like don't just go away from a guy. Don't just like take Jacobs out and give Booker a whole series, or going into this year Drake a whole series, and then just like kind of just let it meander there and not really get a thing going in the running game. So that would be my number one.
Dan.
All right, I'm going to go for the easy layup here. It's on the organization, and we recently spoke about the draft, but we just saw Calvin Johnson inducted into the Hall of Fame. And how many times have we passed on future Hall of Famers for the super high risk, big reward, and it just made the organization look stupid.
All of the times is the answer.
All of the times, yes. I mean, we were talking about Cleveland Ferrell as a number 4 overall pick. Well, so was Charles Woodson. He's a Hall of Famer. So I think that's the kind of guy you're looking for with that number 4 pick.
Yeah. Devin White drafted right after him. Actually, yeah. I retract my statement. That is 1-1, by the way. Sorry, Micah. I think
that's fine. That's okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Carry on, Dan. Set us up into round 2.
All right. That was the organization. Right now, I mean, like I said, last time I was on, this is when I'm at my peak of excitement for the Raiders, and I don't think about a whole lot of negativity because everything's on the up right now. But I'd say Trayvon Mullen or Arnett, but when they finally knock down a pass and they got to like wave it around like they do it every time, like, no, like, this is what I do. It's like, no, usually you get burned or you pass interference. But, hey, you knocked down a pass. Good for you. We don't need to see you wave your arms around. Just get back in the huddle.
That's fantastic. And that is the most Bob McDonald answer that I've ever heard, because it's exactly how Dad was. What the hell are you celebrating for? You did your job. What are you doing? That's so fantastic.
Holy smokes. Yeah, I have nothing else to say besides that's great. Mikey, you're up next.
My second one is going to be not an individual person, but just the defense as a whole, their tendency to just give up touchdowns in the worst possible situation, because they just always do that. They just always give up touchdowns. They just leave people wide open.
You're kind of like Belichick, where you're just like, you just don't do your job. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I wish you would do your job more than you don't do your job.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's hard to really rein it in any better than just the defense giving up touchdowns when they shouldn't give up touchdowns. So
that's pretty good. You guys, I feel like my back's against the wall right now. So I'm gonna go with my second pick, and this is, you know, I'll stay true. I'll stay true to me, and it drives me crazy that, and I'm not sure that he looks at it this way, but it seems this way from the execution side, where it's 3rd and 6, and Gruden calls a 3rd and 6 play, right? To where it's like all the routes are 6.5 to 7 yards. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like, just so you know, you could call this 12-yard in and whatever, right? And it's like, he's like, I'll tell you what, man, this is going to be good. Everyone's right where they need to be. And then like someone's like, well, my route wasn't great, and they break off and we're like a half yard short. And he's like, no, let's punt it. You know, like that pisses me off, where it's like, expand your horizons for a second, sir. I'll stop talking because I will probably talk until you guys need to go to bed. So I'm going to say Gruden's down and distance play calling it frustrates me. And then this is actually hilarious because, well, it may be funny, but it's funny because Dan, it's like the inverse of Dan, where someone gets burnt on the secondary and they point and they're like, where were you? And then the other person's like, where were you? And they're like, yeah, it was me. You know, it's like when someone gets burnt for a touchdown, I guess it ties into both of you guys. But he's like, he gets burnt and he shouldn't have been there. And he's like, what happened? Where's the communication? The guy's like, no, that was actually your mess up. He's like, yeah, my fault for sure.
That's like a blame game type of thing.
It's like a blame game. And the guy is just like, yeah, I guess I shouldn't have got burnt, you know, because I was just doing the incomplete. And I'm still thinking about that from Dan. So going back to you, Micah.
Yeah, mine is going to, and you guys can decide whether this is allowed or not. It kind of falls under the same realm of kind of what Dan was talking about, but it's the umbrella of like that label of reaching on first round picks, or just not feeling great about your first round picks and feeling like you never feel like you got to steal on something. You know what I mean? Like there's times where people are like, yes, that was the correct pick at the correct time. No, you know, not too soon, or, you know, oh, we got to steal with this guy falling here. I feel like there's so many times we just justify our first round picks and like talk ourselves into them almost. You know what I mean? It's just like, there's never that feeling of like, hell yeah, we got that guy. I felt that way when we got Josh Jacobs, to be honest with you. I did feel that way, but like really since like Mac, I feel like was the last time that, and you know, and then like when was it before that time? It's like we just feel like it's like, all right, let me talk myself into why that was a good pick or the right pick. It doesn't ever feel right.
Well, I would say that it's also, I don't even know if I felt that way with Mac because of the media, you know. So I think you take it twofold, where it's like, what are people saying about this pick, and what am I accustomed to feeling? And then also, how do I actually truly look at it? So we truly felt like Mac was the right pick, and it was a steal. And thank God Sammy Watkins got picked at number 4 or whatever it was, right? And also the media's like, oh no, it's a reach. I don't know, Todd, it's a big reach about Buffalo, you know, whatever. And then we're like, well, we'll see. But we're also accustomed to be like, we probably fucked up here, you know? So I think there's a lot of different things. And so, but also on the inverse, like the Patriots are like, Belichick knows what he's doing. N'Keal Harry makes a ton of sense, you know? So there's that. But sorry, I had to jump in like always. Dan, go ahead.
Okay. Really drives me crazy. Sometimes it's our D-line's fault. Sometimes it's the ref's fault. But the frickin' roughing the passer at the wrong times. You know, it's third and 20. They're throwing a little short dump off pass. I felt that one against Carl Nassib in this last preseason preseason game was garbage, but sometimes it's garbage and sometimes it's like, what are you doing? Come on, man. Know the down and distance.
Yeah, that's it. Especially, I think it's the down and distance where it's like, it doesn't matter if you touch him.
Yeah.
Right. Like, even if he throws up a prayer 40 yards down the field, like, it's a hope and a prayer. So that's.
Yeah, and it can be kind of it's a rough thing to kind of toe around, because I know that, like, a few years back we went to a Browns game and I'm not sitting here being an ardent Key defender, but like he had one that was just such trash against Baker Mayfield, and it's such a weird.
You made up for it though, Fitzpatrick, and just
Fitzpatrick, yeah, but it. As you're saying, Dan, it's like it always comes at the worst possible point. That game against the Browns, we went into overtime and we ended up winning. But like it was at a time where it was like down to the wire. We were going back and forth. It probably was one of those situations where it was 3rd and 15 and they threw a 10-yard pass or something stupid. But yeah, it's very frustrating.
Well,
your last 4. One. This is number 4. This is number 4 for you.
Yeah, we'll recap at the end. So, Dan, number 4.
All right, number 4 might not be a popular opinion of most, but it is of mine. It's on the organization, and they just recently addressed that if you want to go to a game, you have to show your COVID card. Now, I think that's a total political move, and it's just trying to appease whatever politics they are. I'm not telling you if I'm for it or against it, but just to jump into that boat of mandation like that, it's like, just stick to football. Just like the podcast, just stick to football, all right? Let's not get into politics.
Yeah, I mean, I've multiple times mentioned we are not a political podcast, and I think you explained it well. And I think the frustration, I'm not going to speak for you, Dan, but I think it comes back to where you could look at it as, oh, they're doing the right thing. But I really think they're doing the right thing for themselves. You know, they're doing the right thing to where they're going to drive the narrative and also benefit from it. So I can see that. I am also not saying which side I'm on either way, but I think it's a fair point and good usage, right? Like you have a mic, you have a platform, good usage of your voice there. So Micah, follow that one up, big guy.
Yeah, that's a tough one to follow. Really got deep into it on it. I would say my final one that I'm going to go with is feeling like Gruden has a tendency to like work away from people if they're not performing right, or you know what I mean. Like you have some drop balls and then he just doesn't target Brian Edwards for 2.5 games straight or something stupid. I don't know. Just it feels that way, that like someone messes up, they almost get punished for it, and they kind of just vies away from that a little bit. So that's my number 4. I came up with 4 options, and luckily I got all of them. So,
well, yeah, it was a broad topic that we looked fixed at the moment, but realized there was a lot of different ways we could go. I will close it off with my last one, and I didn't even have this on my list, but it's more of a feeling, not to quote Boston or Kansas. I think it's actually what I'm realizing is my inability to actually see good. This is like an organization, and then there's like a 4th layer of player, coach, organization, and fan. I have this. It frustrates me that I can't be excited about the Raiders. You know, like it frustrates me that I'll look at it and be like, yep, but not really, you know? So a lot of things that we've talked about today, it's a frustration that I'm never just going to be okay with this, maybe unless we win a Super Bowl, and that's just not realistic, and maybe a different view on life. But I also just, I'm like, I don't even see the good in the Raiders, even though they just went and tore up the Rams in a practice, which they took more seriously than a game. And that never happens. And now I feel this way. So it's more about my inability to be like, they're going to fuck me over, you know? So apologies to everyone, maybe for the cussing, but also for how I presented, but also that's frustrating. That's frustrating for me because I don't ever think I'm going to see the good in these guys. So
it's the definition of, it's the hope that'll kill you with the Raiders, because it's just like you get yourself so hopeful every year, and then even the last 2 years when we win 6 out of 9 games, and you're like, all right, this is the different year, and then they just go and shit the bed. It's like the hope with the Raiders is what's going to kill you, so you try not to get too hopeful. I mean, we're hopeful, when like we talk about hyping ourselves up, we're hopeful, but at the same time, we're like hesitant with that hope. So
I agree with that.
100% feel you.
I think more so where I'm going is like, I don't know if I've ever experienced hope. It's like I've manufactured
2016
it.
was hope. Don't act like 2016 wasn't hope. Until Carr broke his leg, 2016 was hope.
So if that was the definition of hope, I was driving on Christmas Eve to a church function outside of our church, but a church function to praise Jesus. And I'm listening to the game on the radio, and Derek Carr broke his leg, and I was not very spiritual when I walked into those doors. So that was as much hope as I had.
Comes in all shapes and sizes,
and all broken sizes, Micah. Yeah. Okay, and so I want to find. I'm just turning over a new leaf. I just want to find some hope in these guys, But I'll end it with a fucking effing deep one, guys. So do we have any? What is it called?
Final words.
No, not final words.
Honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. Any honorable mentions that didn't get spoken of? I have a few. Spoiler, but I'm going to go with the D-line jumping off sides, even though they were clearly offsides and they just point at the O-lineman. Like, that's going to determine it. It's like, yeah, you were super offsides. That's one of them. Josh Jacobs, just like always embracing contact because he's like, I'm about that life. And you're like, well, you maybe could have just like R1'd it, outside and then got it 6 or 4, 12 extra yards, whatever. No, I think that was it. That was the rest of my list. But
I think that I think there's the Raiders have a very large spectrum of like, you were clearly in the wrong with the penalty that happened, but you're going to point at the other person, no matter what it was, whether it's like a flag for PI and you're like, yeah, you totally just like grab the dude and pull him to the ground, but you're going to call for offensive PI, or like you said, D-line jumping off sides when it's clearly, they're pointing at the O-line and stuff. So I think a big, like, Raiders committed a penalty, but they also point at the other team as if they didn't just commit the penalty.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of, like, I think we talked about it last week or a couple of weeks ago, just the broadcasters, those things like that. Or I could just stay true to form and say Stuart Schweigert, like just him being him. I'm just not a fan of him and why he was on the field. So
Stuart Schweigert was Nevin Lawson 1.0. Really,
he was way worse, man. He was way worse.
But as far as like as far as the hate is concerned,
I'm going to throw a race into this. I think you saw a white safety and wanted to believe in hope, and I was just like, I see you for who you are, Stuart, and you are Stuart.
I'm still working on getting him on the podcast. So.
Okay, well, I love Stuart Schweigert.
You're gonna bow. Are you gonna bow out of that episode?
No, I mean, I think Dan already called it out. Like, I'll take my shots where I can. So I have to be true to myself. So